So I'm still waiting for. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cheyenne's Forum. Today is January 6th. It's a very special day. Um, Here is our dear friend Tom. Tom, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So nice to see you. So when I see the date, January 6th, I just have so much different feeling about this day.
Right.
So yeah, hopefully we will see some good results for these patriots in the near future. Yeah.
Well, so far so good. I mean, having been pardoned, that's one
Right.
good step for them.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So we have lots of questions like to discuss with Tom. But before we start, I'd like to introduce Tom. Mr. Tom Fuentes. He worked in FBI for 30 years, and he worked as assistant director of FBI for 5 years, and he's retired now. Again, thank you so much, and again, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. My pleasure.
Thank you. So the new year has kicked off with so many major developments, but first let's discuss about Venezuela and Maduro. So is this a surprise to you, the whole thing?
I think, yes, how quickly it happened. And I think that, we tend to underestimate Trump and
Hmm.
think that he's going to be just like every other politician and former president that talk a good game and then do nothing.
Yeah.
And in his case, he talks a good game and then does it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that the speed at which he did it
Hmm.
was a surprise. And
Hmm.
the fact that the U.S. committed so many resources and coordinated those resources so effectively and
Right.
efficiently.
Right.
And I think that's what caught everybody by surprise,
Right. Right.
starting with Maduro
Right.
and his people and
Hmm.
the country of Venezuela and other countries watching. And
Hmm.
I think everybody got a good surprise of what the U.S. is capable of if we
Hmm.
decide to take action.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Tom, do you mind I translate into Chinese a little
No.
bit? Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. So, 我今天给大家介绍就是 Tom 哈，他在FBI 呢工作了30年，然后有5年他是 FBI 的这个副局长，负责了非常重要的工作。他现在已经退休，所以谢谢他来参加我们的这个节目。那今天呢是1月6号，那当然我们希望1月6号的这些爱国者们哈，他们的这个他逐步得到更好的一些安置哈。那另外呢，我们谈到最近新年有很多事情发生呢，主要是委内瑞拉跟马杜罗的事情。那我就问汤姆说，你觉得这个事情对你来讲是不是惊讶？那汤姆说非常惊讶哈。那特别是这个事情如此快的解决，那是更让他很惊讶的一个事情。那么他说考虑到之前有很多的这个总统也好，或者是美国相关的官员也好，说要采取某一些的行动，可是他们始终没有动作。那川普总统上来的这个动作，以及各方面军事协调的这样的一个高效和准确啊，不但使美国人很惊讶，也使马杜罗本人相当的惊讶，也使所有这个委内瑞拉的人都对大家来讲。都是一个非常惊讶的一件事情，或者说这是一个很惊讶的一个喜事啊。也就是说呢，非常好的这样的一个行动和它的最后的一个结果。So from you mentioned about how quick, how efficiency the whole operation, and this is yes, classic actually. So from a military and intelligence point of view, what do you think about this operation?
Well, it's obvious for as successful as it was that we had many, many sources on the ground
Mhm.
in Venezuela.
Right.
And some of them were probably, the CIA's job around the
Mhm.
world outside the United States
Mhm.
is to get local members of the country that they're operating in, their government officials, to become sources of the CIA, which
Mhm.
essentially for them is like committing treason against their country.
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
pretty clear that there were many dissatisfied members of the Venezuelan government,
Mhm.
especially close to Maduro himself, that
Mhm.
basically became sources of information for the CIA.
Mhm.
And and that's what enabled this to have the knowledge of where exactly he was going to be, where
Mhm,
his safe house is, what he
mhm,
was going to do,
mhm.
and they caught him right in the middle of it, so that the whole operation took only a few minutes.
Great. Yeah, I mentioned on the news conference, President Trump mentioned 47 seconds. That is amazing.
Yeah,
Actually, Maduro wants to go into the safe room, but he has no time.
right.
Yeah. So you mean CIA has a very important role for the whole operation?
Absolutely, sure.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. Thank you. Yeah.
Because
So
the F, just to separate, the FBI's role in a
mhm,
country like Venezuela or anywhere else
mhm,
is to investigate cases along with their authorities. In other words, not to spy on that country, not to get people in that country to, uh, basically commit treason against their own country. None
mhm.
of that. It's to seek cooperation and have a very cooperative rate. My last 5 years in the FBI, I ran that program. So
Mhm.
I know exactly what the FBI is doing around the world.
Sure. So yeah, glad you mentioned that they try to get these officers cooperate with them. So this
Right.
is a very high skill to approach these people.
Exactly.
哇，wonderful，呀、所以我就问了 Tom，就是说，那从军事跟情报的角度上来讲，他怎么来评价这一次的行动？那他说，这个当然是非常成功的哈。那从情报的角度上来讲呢，他特别提到了这个 CIA 哈。那因为实际上这个 CIA 的这些官员或者他们的一些工作人员，很早就到了这个委内瑞拉，那他们是跟委内瑞拉的。官员来合作，那从这个合作当中得到很多的情报哈，那这个情报当然是极其精准的，极其细节的，所以呢，就会给这个军事行动呢是最好的这样的一个支持。那还有提到说这些军事就合作就是搞到情报的这个过程啊，其实并不是说让这些人去背叛，当然这个作为委内瑞拉的人来看哈，或者是马杜罗政府来看，他政府当中有些人背叛他了。可是呢，从FBI 的角度来看，他们实际上是达成某种合作。那 Tom 呢，在 FBI 工作了5年的一个副局长的位置，实际上他就是在很清楚他们这个在做什么。So from your point of view, it's very successful operation, the
Well,
CIA and
I think
FBI.
it's unanimous, everybody's point of view that,
Right,
the United States military with hundreds of soldiers
right.
and aircraft and other resources were able to go in
Mhm,
and so quickly
mhm,
take control of basically Maduro and his
right.
wife
Mhm,
and not have anybody killed,
mhm,
not have any aircraft shot down or disabled or anything else,
mhm,
and pull that off so successfully, so quickly.
mhm,
And I think that's quite a lesson for many other countries in the world
mhm.
that basically, the Biden administration is over and the US is back.
Good point. Good point. 所以 Tom 就是说，这个其实美国这次的行动哈，如此的精准，如此的大规模的调动的合作的成功，那这个达成目标的迅速，那美方呢一点损失，就军事上没有什么损失的哈，人员也没有损失，所以实际上是给全世界看到了这样的一个样板，一个模板，那也让全世界知道说。拜登的时代已经结束了，美国的新时代已经开始了。So this is a big, great announcement to the world how
Right,
American can be, how American should be. Yeah.
right.
Well, you mentioned about the cooperation of this whole operation. I just feel amazed that there are so many different bases are involved to this operation. 150 planes, right, from 20 different bases. How could they cooperate, come to the same place from the different places? And operate one thing. I just feel it's amazing.
Well, their leadership is trained to be able to communicate with other elements and have that
Right.
cooperation and have that coordination and be successful.
嗯哼嗯
And don't forget that the Army's Delta Force, everybody, not to put down Navy SEALs who are so famous, SEAL
，sure，
Team 6,
嗯哼
but it's actually Delta Force in the Army that's
嗯
more
哼
sophisticated and sounds like was the lead tactical unit
嗯
in
哼
this operation.
嗯哼。Yeah, so you talk about Delta, which is the most to the enemy most dangerous force, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
A famous movie years ago starring Chuck Norris and Lee Marvin was, about Delta Force
right, right.
and about their capabilities and training. And, in that case, it was a mission that was fiction, but it was based on what their capabilities are and what they trained to do.
Sure. So we're talking about the technology and the management. These are the two elements for the whole operation. Is that right? Understanding?
Among many things, bringing all the resources of the military and
Mhm.
law enforcement and intelligence community all
Mhm.
together, working
Right,
cooperatively and very effectively together
right.
to have this mission be successful.
Right, right, right. 所以我就跟就是问 Tom，就是这个整个的一个调动啊，这实际上是非常非常了不起的哈，因为它是150架战机从20个不同的这个呃地方起飞，那20个不同的地方呢，他们互相其实相隔很远，那他们要在同一时间到达同一地点执行同一任务，那中间不能有任何闪失，因为这个里头所牵扯到的这个管理哈，这个精确度啊是非常让人叹为观止的哈。那汤姆就谈到是这样的一个情况哈。那他说他们整个的这个 training，就是不管是技术上的 training 还是管理上的这种训练哈，那都是就是最高标准、极其严格的。那另外他提到这个 Delta，就是这个三角洲部队，那这个部队其实当然我们大部分人知道是海豹部队，那海豹部队也是非常非常厉害，但这个三角洲部队的这个厉害啊，就是一点都不亚于这个海豹突击队，那甚至可能比海豹突击队更强。当然也提到曾经有个电影就谈到这个三角洲突击队的这个问题。Um, so what is the Venezuela's geopolitical significance for the United States? How important this country to our country?
They're important in many ways because, first of all, they were at one time before Chavez and then Maduro took over
Mhm.
the country, they were probably the richest country in Latin America.
Right.
And, so to have a country that wealthy and capable and
Mhm.
have the largest oil reserve of any country in the world
Mhm.
under their control and having Russia and China and other countries, Iran, trying to deal with them to get that
Mhm.
makes them powerful, makes them a threat to the
Mhm.
United States.
Right.
Then you have what's been going on since the Biden administration of, as our intelligence community is saying, that between Chavez and Maduro, emptying their jails, emptying their insane asylums,
Mhm.
all of those people and sending them to the United States to threaten
Mhm.
us. So they're trafficking dangerous drugs into the United States, and
Mhm.
then they're establishing relations with many people, many countries, I should say, that are adversaries of the United States. So they pose a tremendous threat, and again, in our hemisphere.
Mhm. So yes, yeah, let me translate this part. I think it's really important for people to understand, no, yeah, this point of view. 所以我问他，就是从地缘政治这个角度上来说，这个委内瑞拉对美国的重要性在什么地方啊？他说，这个2点哈。第一呢，这个委内瑞拉它其实之前在查韦斯之前是 richest country 啊，在拉丁美洲最富裕的拉丁美洲的国家。那之后呢，这个查韦斯上台之后呢，中国、美国、中国、俄国跟伊朗的势力进入了这个拉丁美洲，进入了委内瑞拉。那这个其实对美国的威胁是很大的，这是第一哈。第二点呢，就是 在拜登的期间，委内瑞拉几乎清空了他所有的监狱，把所有的这些监狱里的人，就是通过这个所谓的这个走线哈，就进入到美国。那不管怎么样，这两点对美国来讲都是不能够容忍的，这样的一种威胁。Yeah, Tom, thank you so much. And you talk about the oil. Some people just say that these operation, the purpose of that is not Maduro, is for the oil industry. We want to take the oil from Venezuela. Do you believe that? What do you think about this narrative?
No, because first of all, the oil that comes from Venezuela is extremely dirty and
Hmm.
it requires a great deal of refining,
Right.
expense in refining it,
Mm-hmm.
compared to probably the best oil in the world comes from the Gulf of Guinea, which is off the west coast of Nigeria.
Hmm.
That oil requires minimal refining to
Hmm.
use the byproducts, gasoline and other plastics, other things that comes from petroleum products.
Hmm.
And it's very straight, short route from the
Hmm.
west coast of Africa to our southern coast, where our refineries are. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to go through the dangerous Middle East and the Red Sea and the Straits of Hormuz. So those tankers aren't being attacked by the Houthis or any of these other groups. It's a very straight shot to come
Hmm.
across the Gulf of Guinea into the United States.
Hmm.
Now, the Venezuelan oil, on the other hand, China is happy to get it compared to us or some of the other countries,
Hmm.
and they're going to spend the money to refine it and
Hmm.
have to completely keep refining and cleansing it and all of that. So it's
Hmm.
very expensive for them to process it.
Hmm.
However, Venezuela will, be happy to sell them the oil if they're willing to go through that expense.
Hmm.
So it's much inferior, let's say, very
Hmm.
inferior compared to the US oil.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you. And then you mentioned that when China and Russia and Iran get into Venezuela, it's actually put a lot of threat to the U.S. So if we do not need their oil, they need their oil. So we are just doing our own business. What's the threat it comes from?
Well, we're happy to keep them from getting the oil. So it's whether we need it or not, we don't want them to have it, even though they're going to spend the extra money to do the refining. A
Mhm.
lot of people don't realize that when we were strong allies with Venezuela 20, 25 years ago or more,
Mhm.
that we helped them set up their processing, their refineries. And
Mhm.
then when Chavez and Maduro come to power, they just seize it from the United States and take control of it. So they
Mhm.
basically stole the resources from
Mhm.
us.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, so China and the other countries are more than happy as fellow socialists slash communists
Mhm.
and fellow enemies or adversaries with the United States. They're only too happy to take that oil, buy it from Venezuela, even though they have to do a
Mhm.
great deal more refining
Mhm.
than than we would do.
Right, right, yeah，所以我就问他，就说这个谈到了这个石油的问题啊，现在有一种说法就是美国去委内瑞拉是为了要他的这个石油哈，那他们就说他其实不是这个情况，因为委内瑞拉的石油叫做 dirty oil，意思就是叫脏油哈，意思就是说它是需要经过很多的提炼才能够进入真正的一个使用。那实际上呢，世界上最好的一个石油在欧洲的一个在非洲的一个海岸。那个石油就是它纯度非常高哈，所以它的这个石油运输到美国来的这条线也非常安全。那美国其实是不需要这个就是委内瑞拉的这个石油哈。那但是呢，美国之前是在查韦斯之前是帮助了委内瑞拉，因为他们这个精炼油的技术不够好，所以美国一些石油公司就过去帮他们建这个精油油炼厂在委内瑞拉。那后来呢，这个查韦斯上台之后，把这些厂都收走了，所以美国这一次实际上是收回原来美国帮他们建的这些厂，这个里头有一些历史的一些渊源这个部分哈。Yes, so what do you think? What is the rationale behind Maduro's arrest? Is this solo because he is a drug king, Or is there more to that for arrest of Maduro?
Well, yeah, the drugs, he's sending the drugs into the United States. That's bad. But
Mm-hmm,
he's sending the worst people in his population to come in into
mm-hmm,
the United States and
mm-hmm,
then commit crimes, commit other terrible acts here, either as criminals or cartel members or as terrorists.
mm-hmm.
Um, the group, the main group there that he sponsors called Tren de Aragua
Trendy
is is basically translated means the train from Aragua, which is a geographic location in their country.
Mm-hmm,
And and those people are extremely vicious. Many of these international organized crime groups slash cartels slash terrorists are
mm-hmm,
very violent, very vicious,
mm-hmm,
and to flood our country with those kind of people
mm-hmm,
and the drugs,
mm-hmm,
and then sell the oil and deal with China and Russia and other countries like that.
mm-hmm.
He's a tremendous threat. And so then on top of that, he's trying to be a charismatic leader. And if you see some of the speeches that he's made lately, where he's uh, basically taunting Trump in the United States, come and get me.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if you can come and get me. Well,
Mm-hmm.
we did. And I think that's the change in U.S. foreign policy that he and his people didn't think was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Trump surprised them in the speed at which they did it, how they did it, and everything like that. Now, the other message,
Mm-hmm.
before you stop to translate, um,
Sure,
the other
sure.
message is not just the capability of the United States military, which is enough to shock these countries and make them afraid, but the penetration of U.S. intelligence
Mm-hmm.
into their government,
Right.
to know where the buildings are, to know where he's going to go and hide, to relay the information to our people that can build the exact replica of
Right.
his safe house before they go in and know he's going to go in that building and here's the layout, here's the way the rooms are set up and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, so yeah, thank you so much for mentioning about we actually built another copy of his room.
Right.
How could that happen? How could I just feel it's so unbelievable?
I'm sure they're scratching their heads in
Oh my,
Caracas and realizing these are inside people in their government, not
right,
just USA spies or CIA
right,
spies,
right,
but people recruited by the CIA to give that information that are members of his government, that are part of this, his defense teams and his intelligence units and all of that. And so
mm,
I think the shock to Caracas, Venezuela, and the other countries is the penetration of their top officials. That's the CIA's main role
right,
overseas,
right,
is to get people from that government to give up information about their own government.
right, right. Well, thank you so much, Tom, to for mentioning that because when talking about the safe room. I always feel so amazing about that because I believe there are not only few people can get into that room. So meaning that there are some people, just one or two, that can get into the room that cooperate with American. How could that happen?
Well,
So
first of all, somebody from Venezuela or someone they hired had to build it. So you have contractors that would have the floor plan, the materials that were
right,
used, where
right,
it's located within the government complex.
right.
So, the story coming out now, and it may or may not be exactly true,
Mhm.
was that they were trying to get into that room and our forces were able to block them from shutting the door. Now, the only thing difference is that had they shut the door and locked it and steel doors and all of that, it would have taken more than a few minutes to get into it, but we would have gotten into it. So
Mhm.
I think that, that was a false hope on their part. If we get into our safe room, we're all set. We're going to be safe.
Right,
No, we can take out a safe room and we
exactly.
can take out that room that takes you with it if you don't want to come out.
Right, right.
So, so I think that that's part of the success of the operation is knowing where they were going to go to that room, knowing how they were going to lock it, and knowing what we would have to do to get into it.
Right.
All of that meant they were not going to be safe in their own safe room.
It's amazing. It's a masterpiece. It's great. Yeah. Let me translate this part. It's so wonderful. Yeah. 所以我就问他哈，就是关于马杜罗被抓，那除了他是就是毒品哈，就是这个为什么要去抓这个马杜罗？那除了他是我们指控他是这个毒品的这个毒枭的头子之外，还有什么其他的原因吗？那他们的意思说，对对，这是第一，毒品它当然是这个Trinidad，right? Is the name of the gun?
Aragua is a province it's a location in Venezuela, and the train, so it's the train from there.
OK，gotcha，thank you。有一个地方哈，它这 Trinidad 这个呢，就是一个地方的这个名字哈，就是比如它的名字叫做这个就华盛顿，就华盛顿列车哈。Anyway，这个地方呢，它是一个黑帮的名字。那这个黑帮是你可以想象的，任何残忍的事情都可以做得出来，非常非常非常的这个残暴，而且威胁极大。那谈到这个呢，他们就说这是马杜罗对美国的第二个威胁，就是他把这些监狱里的抓到的这些帮派分子，包括这个最可怕的这个什么列车帮派的哈，把他们全部弄到美国来，实际上对美国的国家安全和我们每个社区的安全都是非常非常大的威胁。所以从这个角度上来讲，非抓他不可哈，这是一个。那另外呢，Tom 就谈到了哈，我们谈的很高兴的就是关于 CIA 的这个渗透的能力，它渗透能力之强哈，就是把它最高的这个机密，就是马杜罗躲到这个安全屋，这个安全屋实际上美国在打仗，就是打这一仗之前，把它这个安全屋呢已经做了一个 copy 的样本，大小就是1:1的一个样本，里面所有的一个设施，所有的一个安排，全部精细到就是100%。所以呢，这些这个战士啊，他们在练习的时候，其实对这个safe room 就非常非常熟悉。那么这个意味着美国渗透到委内瑞拉的最高的这样的一个机密的这个能力，所以他几乎就是1秒都不差去把这个就是平时的这个训练在真正的实战中实施了。那如果没有这个1:1的东西啊，他抓马杜罗不一定能抓得到，因为所谓的这个 safe room 这个安全屋呢，它有一个就是很大的安全门，那它所有的这个目标就是进到这个安全门里面，你可能很难抓住它了。那么我们就是要在它进到安全门之前的几十秒钟内把它就抓住，所以呢，从这个情报的渗透能力来讲，那美国可以说从这个角度上来说是无与伦比的。到了，也就是这是为什么这个47秒会出现，因为如果我们没有在47秒内可以说抓住这个马杜罗，马杜罗可能今天我们抓不住的。那谈到这个能力呢，所以我就说这个很让人感到震惊，因为真正能够进到他安全屋里没有几个人。那么也就是说，就这几个人当中，有人把这个重要的情报跟美军合作了。那他们说呢，当然，虽然是这样，但是其他你这个就是安全屋你需要有人建啊，你会有建筑图纸啊，它有各方面的一些办法来搞到这个最高的机密，所以就谈到了美国这个情报渗透能力。So, Tom, thank you so much for mentioning that. And I think it's a give the example for the other leaders of this world that what American can do. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So, do you think they are not feel safe right now if they are
No,
enemy?
and they have to feel vulnerable from two ways. One is obviously the superior technical capability of the U.S. military to coordinate and carry out complex missions using dozens of different units and parts of the Army and the military and Air Force and coordinate it totally successfully to not have any casualties or downed aircraft or anything. But the scarier part, if I was a leader of one of these countries, the scarier part would be who do you trust in your own government? Because members of that government, Maduro's closest people, some within that group were cooperating with the United States. Or
Yeah.
we needed their cooperation to have the layout of these government and personal buildings and houses and safe
Mhm.
houses and all of that.
Mhm.
And the information, for example, we turned out all the lights in Caracas going
Right,
in.
right.
So we had to know, where do you go for that? Where's their electric power grid based at? Where are some of these other factors that we can do to
Mhm.
help us going in, and we don't need light. The fact that our military, we can go in practically total darkness and fly and operate on the ground and guide our missiles or whatever armament we're going to use in the dark. So how many of these countries can do all that in daylight, much less in the darkness? So everything about it that we did wasn't just designed to get Maduro and his wife, which
Mhm.
we did,
Mhm.
but it sends a message to all of these other countries
Mhm.
that, we went in and bombed Iran's nuclear facilities and they couldn't stop that a couple months ago. Now we
Mhm.
go into Caracas and they pretty much knew we'd be coming
Mhm.
because he's been threatening Trump and come and get me and all of this tough guy talk.
Mhm.
And okay, and we did. And I think that and I think there was nothing they could do to stop it, and they
Right.
didn't and couldn't.
Right, right. Yeah, this is amazing part. It's amazing part. Thank you so much. 所以我就问他说，如果说美国能在这个情况下把马杜罗抓起来，那是对世界上其他的这些国家和这些国家的领导人是不是一个很大的威胁哈？那汤姆就是说，这个如果他是某一个国家领导人，他可能会害怕哈。这个害怕是来自于两个方面，一个就是一个军事实力上。军事和情报的实力上。So we're talking about not only military, but intelligence.
Exactly.
Intelligence. So this is something that you cannot come over right now. 所以就是一个是军事的能力，一个是情报能力哈，这两个能力达到了一个可以说无孔不入的一个程度。那在军事能力上，它展现的这个各军种的合作的能力，因为这次的整个的行动啊，它的几乎是调动了所有的这个军种的一个精密的合作能力哈。那这个是在目前为止世界上没有其他国家可以望其项背的。那第二个更重要的是心理上 psychologically 的，就是说你不敢相信你周围的任何人，因为你在这次行动中发现美军所得到的一个情报是你周围最亲密的人所给出的，或者说才能够给出的一些情报。所以，那你在周围的这个你最就是愿意相信的人当中，你可能都不能把这个信任给他们。那对于一个领导人来说，你周围没有相信的人，这是一个巨大的灾难。这是其实是使得你根本就很难开始做这个领导的这个事情。好，另外他谈到了美国这个就是这次的行动当中，以及上次在伊朗的行动当中，这个在黑暗中的这个作业能力。那这个因为这个抓马杜罗这件事情是在晚上发生的哈，所以根本就是漆黑一片的哈。那这个战争所有的动作的这个准确精准的程度，你即使是在白天。很多的这个国家军队是做不到的，那美国是在这个伸手不见五指的这种漆黑的晚上都可以做到，那这个也是令人非常非常胆寒的。非常非常胆寒的。Yeah, there's a very interesting detail that of this operation. I think it's before about 3 hours before the operation happens, before Maduro has been arrested, he actually met with Chinese representatives, a group of people. So do you think it's just like coincidence or something more?
Now we would have known he was having that meeting. Our intelligence in Caracas would have told us exactly he's meeting with the Chinese. And basically, as long as we didn't harm anybody from China,
Mhm.
that was the idea. We're just going to get him. And the Chinese delegates that were meeting with him, when
Mhm.
they get out safely, they're probably going, boy, it's a good thing we weren't in the middle of that. They could have hurt us or killed us or captured us.
Right.
So it was kind of, it was a dual message to Xi in China
Mhm.
that you can meet with him all you want, but we're going to take him out, and it doesn't matter who you meet with.
That's very interesting. So, there is no relationship between this meeting and the arrest.
I don't think so. Not that I know of at this point. Also, you have, the vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, has been sworn in and
Right.
making public statements about we're not going to, cooperate or all of that.
Mhm.
And we don't know if that's true. That Rodriguez may be the source of all of this. When you're the boss, whether it's a mafia family or a country or what, the number two is always the one you suspect most of being a threat to you.
Right.
Because if you go down, number two becomes number one. And
Right.
you've heard that with the rumors, the Kennedy assassination, for example. Who's the biggest threat to Kennedy? Besides all the entities that didn't want him to be president,
Mhm.
Lyndon Johnson, number
Right.
two.
Right.
So you go back to Rome and
Yeah.
and the emperor's guards were always the biggest threat to the emperor and often killed the emperor. So you've had this over and over throughout history
Mhm.
that the royal palace guard close to the leader is the biggest threat.
Right. Well, that's a smart point.
So we
Yeah.
don't know with Rodriguez, the newly sworn in president,
Mhm.
what the relationship is, all the big tough talk, same as Maduro, come and get me. That person may have already been cooperating with from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true. Okay, let me translate that. This is it's wonderful. I didn't hear anybody talk about this point, which is this is very very valuable. 就是我问 Tom，就说在马杜罗被抓之前的几个小时，他刚刚见了一个中国的代表团哈，所以我问他这只是一个巧合，还是有更多的一些内容在里面？那 Tom 就是说这个倒就是可能。就是不一定这两个事情之间有关系哈，就是实际上换一下这个问题，就这两件事情之间有没有关系？好，那汤姆就是说，目前倒并没有看出这两件事情之间的有什么必然的关系，那也可能是这些代表团走了，这个就是作战的时间也就成熟了，或者是说他们等到这个代表团走。再开始采取行动，这个细节我们并不清楚。但是呢，他们的看法就是，实际上这是给中国给西方面的一个信息，就是说你愿意去跟马杜罗怎么交往，那是你的事情，但是我们的行动该怎么抓他还怎么抓他，所以就是展示了这样的一种外交语言哈。那这个当中呢，他提到了一个重要的人，就是现在这个他的副总统。就是马杜罗当时的副总统，他现在已经宣誓成为这个美国的总统了。那么这个人在整个的当中有什么样的一个作用，我们现在都不清楚哈。他谈到的就是说，有一个话叫 “always the VP, always the vice president”，就总是这个副手。为什么呢？因为这个很简单，这个就是在贩毒集团哈，就是黑帮家族里面，刚才汤姆说。第二号人物总是一个很危险的人物，因为第一号人物下去，第二号人物就会上去，所以这个女的这个副总统有没有跟美国高度合作，或者是不是在这之前就跟美国合作了，我们都不清楚。那甚至他刚上来以后说了一些这个叫 big talk，就是我们坚决要跟美国干到底等等这些话，到底是真是假，这个都是一个大大的问号。也就是说呢，Tom 在这里面提出了一个非常重要的人，在其他地方我没有听到人在说。这个 VP 的事情，这个副总统的这个角色，他实际上是非常低调的，但是在整个的，就是整个的这个行动当中，他的角色真正的角色是什么，是非常值得考量的哈。所以我觉得 Tom 这点提的是极好。Thank you so much, Tom. I think I remember the movies. What's the name of the movie? And they're saying that always the vice president, always.
Number
So
one suspect, who stands to gain the most when the
right,
leader goes down? The
right,
number two.
right. Yeah,
So that's gone through history. We've
right.
seen that.
Right. And yeah, as you mentioned that when I'm thinking about the vice president of Venezuela, she's very low key, very low key. Nobody knows her. And nobody, yeah, right?
But she's been making public statements, lately about how she's, going to resist. The United States shouldn't have done this, and it's terrible, and all of that.
Mhm.
But she's now the president. So how
Right,
upset is she?
right, exactly.
And and she knows, and Trump's basically said that we're going to monitor the government, and and we'll go back and do it again if we
Right,
have to.
right,
So
right.
she's sitting there going, well, I'm running this country now.
Hmm.
On the other hand, you know, 3 days from now, I could be in jail in New York City if I don't,
Yeah.
do something neutral here. If I try to take on the United States and bluff,
Hmm.
even big tough guy Maduro,
Hmm.
uh, all of his threats and everything didn't work.
Right,
So,
right.
so we
Yeah.
don't know.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll give some time and we'll see. But thank you so much for mentioning that, VP. Yeah. And so Maduro now is scheduled to stand a trial in Southern District of New York. Okay, we're so familiar with this district, Southern District of New York. Why there? People
Well,
just,
that's where he was originally indicted for the drug trafficking there and all of that. They could move the venue if they want to, but as of now, we'll see what happens. They've got time. His next appearance is March 17th.
okay,
So it's a couple of months where they could decide if they want to change a venue or if that's not going to work. And it also may depend on if they arrest more of his people. Right now it's he and his wife, but they could end up with other members of his government also
right.
being arrested and brought to New York. So there's a
Okay,
lot of things they could do.
okay. So what do you think about the judge? They point out a judge which is 92 years old, and how about him?
I think that we're not going to know if that judge is going to be overly liberal like the others have been in the Trump prosecutions and some of those cases. So I don't know. I think we'll wait and see, I think,
Okay.
uh, how that judge operates.
Sure. So you mentioned that if they want to change to a different district, they could before March 17th, right?
Or anytime. Yeah, the federal crimes, they can recommend changing the venue
Ah,
and that could happen. We'll
oh,
see.
okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, because so many people are worried about the Southern District of New York. They're not
Well, if you
friendly.
if you go back to, let's say, the Oklahoma City bombing,
Sure. Uh-huh.
the prosecution of that case ended up being in Denver.
Denver.
So
Uh-huh.
so it was not in Oklahoma City, it was in Denver, Colorado. So there's been other examples where they've changed the venue for one reason or another, but
Okay.
we'll see. They have to pretty much see what they have and where they have it in terms of resources, assets,
Sure.
sources of information, and cooperation.
Mhm.
But we'll see.
Sure, yeah, thank you.就是我问他，马杜罗现在的案子是在纽约南区的这个检察院来起诉了哈。那这个检察院一向是对川普和川普的政府是非常就不友好的哈。那为什么会把这个案子放到那里去？有很多人也蛮担心的。那他们的回答就是说，这个案子最初起诉马杜罗就是这个纽约南区的法院做的，所以就把它再放到纽约南区。那马杜罗下一次出庭是3月17号。那他说呢，其实，在3月17号之前，如果要换地方是可以换的，因为这是一个联邦的案子，所以联邦的案子你是在联邦的范围内可以换。那另外，现在这个92岁的法官到底会如何表现在这个案子上，我们要再等一等，再看一看哈。我们现在并不知道他可能会如何来表现。那所以他也谈到了以前那个 Oklahoma 的这个爆炸案，最后呢是在科罗拉多州的丹佛来审判的，所以你可以在不同的地方来做这个事情。如果是联邦的案子的话，所以要再看一下，这个情况就是需不需要去换这个法院，就是可以是换的哈，这是给大家的一个明确的答复。So I have another question, Tom, regarding this process. If Maduro wants to cooperate with American government, how he might do right now?
Well, I think that for him, if he's going to cooperate, he'd have to give up how did the drugs get to the United States and who are they dealing with in the United States? And specifics about the relationships with China, Russia, Iran, other countries. So I think that there's information he has of who he dealt with. There's other people he could give up,
Hmm.
but it would have to be quite a deal to be better than what the U.S. has now with him. He's the prize. So they're not going to, normally, like the old expressions with organized crime, you throw the little fish back in to get the bigger fish. Well, in this case, you have the bigger fish. You have the biggest fish.
Right.
So so who's he going to give up that would help it? Now, in terms of secret banking arrangements in other countries, what they did with the millions and millions of dollars they were making, uh, all of that, there's a lot of information. But on the other hand, a lot of that information the US would already have. And that's what they have to worry about. What he has to worry about is the US had all the information they needed to capture him in about 3 minutes
Right.
without firing a shot.
Hmm.
So now what's he going to give that maybe the US doesn't already have? So so he may not have much to bargain with. We'll see. We'll find out. I'm sure he may try, but we'll find out.
Okay. Yeah. Great. So he's not in a good position to argue, maybe.
True.
Yeah, right. 所以我问他，就是那马杜罗如果现在他看到这个事情发展到这个程度了，但是之前，刚才他们也谈到这个马杜罗一天到晚是讲大话的，就是说你美国川普你不要来抓我们来呀，那现在果然把他抓起来了，所以呢，现在我的问题就是说，你可不可能他现在考虑要合作了啊？因为的确是美国动真格的了。那么如果马杜罗现在想跟美国合作，那他会给出一些什么样的信息来合作？那他们的总的看法就是说，实际上马杜罗他能给出的信息，也许美国已经都掌握了。他说，因为你这个通常是供出更大的人来换取自己的一些在刑法上的一些便利哈，或者是减刑等等。可是呢，马杜罗本身就已经是这个最大的，已经抓到了。第一，第二，如果美国可以去抓他，可以起诉他，那表明美国对他的这个行为以及他行为背后的这些人的线索已经了解得很清楚了。所以说，他们的看法就是说，马杜罗也许现在并没有很好的这个有价值，在美国来看的情报来跟美国来谈合作的一个问题了。但是当然也有可能有一些例外的情况，你比如说他的一些就是资金流。啊，因为有很大的一部分资金听说是被换成了这个比特币，那这个比特币的整个一个走向，那另外他跟中国、跟伊朗、跟俄国的这个合作的这些问题啊，他也许有一些东西可以交换出来，但是现在我们都不知道，所以他们总的意思就是说，马杜罗也许现在不在一个很好的就是去谈判的一个位置上，因为他所掌握的东西，可能美国基本上都掌握了，所以现在我们还要继续来看这个问题。So what do you foresee as the trial's outcome? What do you see the whole trial it might goes to?
Well, I think the outcome, in my opinion, the outcome will be guilty. He'll be
Guilty.
guilty.
Hmm.
And I think that from analyzing his case compared to back when we arrested the president of Panama, Noriega,
Hmm.
the case against Maduro, I think, is way stronger. That we have a much firmer case to prosecute him.
Hmm.
So I think he's going to be found guilty.
Sure. Sure. And it will be a very quick trial, or it
Well,
will last
not
long.
necessarily quick, but and it'll be a long time to get to trial. So it could be a year or two from now. Uh,
Okay.
for all of the information that they have, and they may have way more information than they had with Noriega. So in this case, how much information, what are the sources of it, how much they want to use against him,
Hmm.
and are there other issues at stake in prosecuting him, such as that was he cooperating with an ally? Was he cooperating with a friendly intelligence service? Were there other issues with him
Hmm.
that we may very much want to know? And those would be points that he could try to bargain with. I'll
Right.
tell you the other countries that I was dealing with, besides the obvious ones, the
Hmm.
other intelligence services, um, how we got information about you or the Western European countries or others.
Mhm.
not just China, Russia, Iran, the obvious ones. So there's a lot of information that's going to be going on behind the scenes, a lot
Mhm.
of bargaining and negotiating. And again, all of his macho bravado and come get me or all of that stuff.
Mhm.
Uh, I think that by now he probably realizes he's looking that he's going to die in a U.S. federal prison
Mhm.
or in another if he can negotiate a deal where he can go to another country to serve his sentence if he gets like Noriega did.
Mhm.
We'll see. So there's a lot that the U.S. has to bargain with, that he might have to bargain with,
Mhm.
and we don't know all of the discussions that'll go on. Having been in those kind of negotiations, you just don't know publicly what's really going on, what the government really knows and
Right.
what he's in a position to bargain with.
Right, exactly. Thank you, thank you. 所以我就问他，就是对于这个马托案子最后的结果有个什么预期啊？他说是，他预期是肯定会判有罪的，这应该说没有什么太大的问题。那他说就，就是和之前巴拿马的这个总统被抓到美国来审讯的，那马杜罗的事情比巴拿马那个总统要严重的多得多，所以他有罪应该是一个可以预期的结果哈。那这个案子会不会很快的就审理下来？那汤姆就说这个，就是看很快是个什么定义啊？因为其实它的内容还是很多的哈。那这个里面呢，就是汤姆就是谈到说，他有可能会交代一些我们现在不知道的事情，意思就是说，比如俄国、中国和这个伊朗跟他合作，现在大家都知道的，只是说你合作到是一个什么样的程度，你跟什么人在接触哈，等等。但是呢，他也有可能有一些的国家或者有一些的势力跟他合作，我们现在是不知道的。所以呢，整个的这个过程呢，就是看马杜罗他有多少美国认为是有价值的东西，美国现在还不知道的，需要他去交代的等等。那他们的意思就是说呢，总的来讲，就是我们就是不是在这个案子当中的人，我们很难知道他的这些具体的一些细节。那看政府的这个需要，看美国的对马杜罗这样的一个判断。那最后呢，他也有可能就是交代一些东西，那换来就是说他可能会就把它流放到第三国，或者是如何的一个结果。那我们还要看，因为这个最后很多细节会出来。That means that there are so many things that Maduro knows that we don't know, or maybe U.S. government don't know yet, and we'll see.
Could be.
Right, right.
Could be.
And seems like people said, who is the next? Now we actually arrested Maduro, and we are dealing with the Venezuela situation, which is it's a good for American. But who's the next? And some people said Colombia, some people said Iran, and some people even said China. What do you think?
Good question. Iran is interesting because there's all kinds of intelligence coming out now
Mhm.
that the Ayatollah,
Mhm.
seeing all of the disturbances and riots in Tehran and in other parts of Iran, that he may be getting ready to flee to Moscow. So, he's been the mullahs there have been in power since 1979
Okay,
when they
right.
overthrew the Shah and took over the U.S. Embassy and took all of our State Department employees hostage for a year.
Mhm.
Um, now now the country, it may be catching up with them. The country is dissatisfied. They're talking like there's no water in Tehran. Kind of sounds like Los Angeles. Um, there's no water, and in fact, that their reservoir reportedly right now is at 12% capacity. So so that's an issue in Iran that causes instability when you don't have water, when you don't have food, when you don't have the
Mhm.
necessities of life,
Mhm.
um, and the fact that the people are so tired of being persecuted by the government, their lack of freedom, all
Right.
of that, that it may be dark days for the
Mhm.
government of Iran, and they may abandon the country and flee. We don't know yet, but we'll see.
Mhm. So Iran might be the next one. Yeah, people are talking about changing the government, change the regime, and I see that Marco Rubio said this is not a regime change. This is just an operation, right?
Well, that's what they're saying now to try to keep the focus on prosecuting Maduro, that whole
Right.
situation, and
Mhm.
not, saying we went in there to take over the country and change the government.
Right.
And people have said, and correctly so, that there have been many times when we've done that and it's backfired. Uh, Iraq being a good example,
Mhm.
Libya, a few other countries where
Mhm.
we've had a hand in taking down the government and it's backfired.
Mhm.
So for now, they're not going to say, oh, this was what we wanted. We wanted to take down the government of Venezuela. They
Mhm.
want to make it clear, not just to us and the rest of the world, that we just wanted to take him
Mhm.
and his wife and a
Right.
few others in his regime, but not the whole government. And that's also a message to the Venezuelan people, which is why they're celebrating
Mhm.
that they're looking at in Venezuela celebrating that they have a chance for maybe a new government and to be free. And
Mhm.
maybe they'll have democracy, maybe they'll have an election.
Mhm.
And maybe their new president,
Mhm.
uh, Delcy Rodriguez may be saying, "Oh, we're gonna do the right thing for the people." So there are a lot of things going on behind the scenes that we don't know, many things in front of the camera that we do know.
Right. Right.
And so there's a lot of possible outcomes to this
Mhm.
and to the neighbors of Venezuela.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. 我跟汤姆就问，就说现在人们在说，那委内瑞就是马杜罗被抓了，现在谁是下一个哈？有的人说是伊朗，有的人说是这个哥伦比亚等等啊。那汤姆就说呢，他好像伊朗看起来是这样子哈，因为现在有一些情报显示，这个伊朗的这个领导哈，他已经在安排要去莫斯科的事情。那伊朗现在的状况是很不好，我们现在得到的一个消息就是，伊朗现在的水供应啊。它本身就是一个很缺水的国家，在这个基础上，它的水供应现在只有应该有的水供应的12%，所以这个呢是非常非常严重的一个情况，也就是这个国家的一个状态是一种很分崩离析的一个情况，所以有可能这个伊朗会成为下一个有重大变化的国家。当然，这个重大变化是不是美国去做一些什么事，这个现在暂时我们还看不出来哈。那另外呢，他也谈到就是关于是不是颠覆一个政权的问题啊。那他们就说，实际上我们在以前做的一些事情，比如在伊拉克等等，你把这个政权推翻掉之后啊，其实很多时候是有一个 backfire，就是最后是会有回马枪的，对美国并不是一个很好的事情。那现在呢？这个事情就是一种外科手术式的一种动作，哈，是很精准的，是拿掉马杜罗和他的太太以及他政府当中的一些涉及到黑帮等这些犯罪事实的一些人，而不是把他整个的政府给颠覆掉啊。所以这个就跟以前的一种就是颠覆政府的说法是不一样的。所以他说这个呃。委内瑞拉人很高兴去庆祝哈，因为这是给他们一个机会，他们可能会有一个新的领导人上来改变一下这个国家的状态。所以现在谈的更多的是对于某一个人他所犯的罪进行司法的追究，而不是说整个颠覆政府的这样一个概念。然后他谈到一个重要的一个概念，就是我很多东西啊，像这样的一些大事，我们所能看到的是台前的一些事情，台下有很多事我们其实是看不到的。Okay, so Tom, the last question of today is we're talking about the governor of Minnesota, Waltz. Actually, he has announced that he will not seek re-election. Do you believe he should be prosecuted for Minnesota's severe fraud cases? What do you think?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Hard for me to believe that that level of stealing from the government
Mhm.
in the billions of dollars, not
Right,
tens of thousands, not tens of millions, but billions,
right,
uh, when you have whistleblowers saying, we told the governor.
right.
And he's been saying for several years, oh, we're going to investigate and I'm going to prosecute them. And he did not. He
Yeah.
didn't do any of that.
Mhm.
So I think that, yeah, I think federal prosecution is absolutely called for and should happen. And he should go to jail.
Thank you so much. I do believe that. And then um, also, President Trump mentioned about Kevin Newsom, and he said we're going to do the federal investigate for the fraud in California. And thank God, we do need that. This is huge in California. Everybody sees that. Everybody sees that.
The
I think,
problem,
uh-huh.
everybody does not see it. Because how do these guys get elected?
Yeah,
Gavin Newsom becomes the mayor. He ruins San Francisco when he's the mayor.
yeah,
That's not good enough. Then he runs for the
yeah,
governor and he
right,
ruins California.
right,
And now he's talking about he wants to be president so he can ruin the whole country.
right.
And who are the morons that keep voting for these guys?
I
Not just
know.
Gavin Newsom in California, in San Francisco, California, and possibly if he runs for president. What
Mm.
about Illinois? The
Right,
mayor, Governor Pritzker,
right,
those guys. What about these other,
right.
Waltz that almost became, or at least could have almost become vice president? Luckily, the fact that he's as stupid as Kamala Harris,
Mm,
that they were wiped out by Trump in a landslide,
mm.
but the fact that he got that far to be a candidate for vice president
Right,
and all his jumping around and acting foolish, that almost happened.
right.
And then you look at now, we have a communist running New York City. So this stuff is unbelievable. You have a communist basically running Seattle. She just got elected. So we have all of these people. It's bad enough that they're morons and believe these fake and phony and uh, terrible ideologies, but the stupid people vote for them. How can that be? How are we going to, survive in the long run when the
Yeah,
people in this country are that stupid?
right, right. And so, when we look back of the situation that we are on right now, especially in California, in Seattle, in Minnesota, do you believe that our election system has been ruined long time ago at state level?
Well, the
Meaning,
problem is the Constitution says that the elections will be run at the state level. So that's number one.
sure,
But, there are a lot of issues. First of all, I think that the fact that we have an increasingly stupid population because our education system is so terrible now compared to what it was. So
right.
the damage that's been done by the woke ideology and the DEI ideology, I think that we can turn the corner by just defeating those ideologies by election by having a smarter people running our country,
Mhm,
smarter population voting for these people. And I think that's what happens. And then you combine that with a media that's on their side, that
mhm,
backs up these morons. And, we need a free press. We
mhm,
need an accurate press in order to have the people get properly educated,
right,
properly informed. And the
right,
fact that all of that's a weakness right now in the system,
right.
this is a big turning point right now. Can
Sure.
the Republicans overcome the Democrats in this year's midterm,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
then 3 years from now or 2.5 years from now in the next presidential?
Sure.
So those are big questions, and we're going to be standing by and watch. And the
Sure.
only the only way to combat that, I think, in the short run,
Mhm.
is podcasts like this one, where
Thank you.
people can get informed of what's going on, what's at stake, how this
Mhm,
works, what's going on behind the scenes, to the
mhm.
extent that we can know what's going on behind the scenes. And I think that podcasts like yours are very, very important.
Thank you.
And the bigger the audience, with YouTube trying to silence your audience and downplay it and unsubscribe people and all of the stuff they do because they're extremely left wing, we'll see.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for your support and help us to understand what's going on here and help us to look at the current affair from the history point of view, which is so important and the basic of to understand this country and what happened around the world. Thank you so very much. And I'd like to give you a very good news from California that we have a signature collection for the voter ID requirement.
Right,
We
right.
need over 1 million signatures in order to put this on the bullet, and we got it. We got it. We got,
Terrific.
yeah. So it's I'm so,
Congratulations.
so happy. Thank you so much. And I actually sent out the last two signatures that I collect on December 31st, the last day. So yeah, I'm just so happy that we passed this the requirement, and every signature counts. We need to stand and fight. We need not to keep the quiet. We need to do something for our country, for our community. Everybody has the responsibility to do so. And I like to really appreciate everyone who signed the applications. This is a good news for the new year. And then thank you so much, Tom, for your insights, for your knowledge, for your encouragement at this actually very difficult time of our history. And I like to translate the last part of our discussion, and then I think you can just go do whatever you want. I can stay here to translate into Chinese. And I see some people say hi, Happy New Year, and may all your wishes come true. And thank you for Tom for supporting this podcast, supporting us, supporting this Chinese community in America.
Just if I could add one more thing to that,
Sure, of course.
people, in the media, you hear people saying that people doing podcasts make a lot of money on these podcasts.
Mhm.
So you can verify that I make no money and that I'm doing this because of being a citizen
Yeah.
and to
Thank you.
support you because you're being a good citizen,
Thank you.
and hope that that's the reason that people will accept why we take the time to do this.
Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, yeah, I do not have no money. Yeah, it's just, I think this is my duty. This is my
Yeah,
response.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so very much, Tom.
Okay. Thank you very much for the forum, your forum.
Thank you. So I'll see you next week, and I'll stay here to translate that into Chinese
Okay.
to the
See you
audience.
next week.
See you next week. Thank you so much, Tom. Thank
Sure.
you.
Bye-bye.
嗨，我会在这里哈，汤姆先下去哈。好，现在是这样子，因为不想让汤姆在这儿时间太长啊，他就是他有他的事情，因为我们呢可以就是在这儿说一下中文，就是他最后的这个部分啊，其实蛮重要的，蛮重要的。我最后的问题就是问他。明尼苏达州的州长沃茨，他呢是昨天宣布说他不会再竞选，就是竞选连任。他本来是就今年哈，他想连任这个州长，那因为明尼苏达州爆发了这个严重的这个丑闻呐、贪腐，这是个大型的工业化的贪腐丑闻，所以他没有办法再选下去了哈。那我问汤姆的意思是说，他这个 Waltz 是不是应该被起诉？不是光退选州长的问题。那汤姆说100%绝对是应该的。那这个人是一定要被起诉，而且是应该入监的。那他们的看法就是说，他很难相信像这样大规模的一个就是贪腐的行动是在这个州长不知道的情形下进行的。第一，第二，这个州里面其实已经有人跟跟这个 Waltz 这个州长不止一次的反映过贪腐的问题。那 Waltz 的回答每次都是好，我们会去查，但是完全一点都没有动。所以他最轻的来讲是严重的渎职。那这个里面有没有利益输送，这个还是要进行司法调查的。所以呢，他们就说他是就完全赞成说这个人要被起诉，要被判刑，要被入监啊。这个明尼苏达州长，你光是退出州长选举是完全不够的哈。那我们就谈到就是明尼苏达的这样的一个问题啊。那谈到了这是加州哈。那加州呢，今天还是昨天上午，川普总统呢他发了一个推，就是说。加州的这个贪腐问题比明尼苏达的要大得多得多得多，所以呢，这个加州的一个贪腐问题的联邦调查已经开始了，所以这是一个很好很好的消息。那我们是很高兴，也是盼望已久。那我个人的观点就是说，因为加州的贪腐太过明显了哈，而且规模也太大，所以只要联邦来调查，毫无疑问是可以抓个正着的。 这是对加州人来讲是个很好的消息。那他们也就谈到，就是说像就是伊利诺伊州就是所有这些民主党当政的这些州它其实贪腐问题都是极其巨大的。那我们现在只看到的，即便在明尼苏达也是冰山一角，所以我们就谈到说，这些人想想看，像 Tom Walz 这样的一个贪腐如此贪腐的一个州长，差点被选成美国的副总统。他当年跟这个 Kamala Harris 搭档这个简直是让人觉得这个脊背发凉，出一身的冷汗的哈。那么，所以他们就感到非常就是也很失望就是说为什么这样的一些人可以被选上当州长、当市长这么样一些重要的位置呢？更不要说纽约现在基本上选出一个社会主义者来当这个纽约市的市长就是那这些选民为什么要去这样来投票这是汤姆是对这个选民感到很失望的呢。他谈到说这个里面两个重要的原因我提的一个问题就是说这样来看是不是说这些州的选举已经其实都被偷了，也就是说这些人并不见得是这个州里面的这些选民一张一张票选出来的，也许都是作假上去的。换句话说，正常的选民这个不会给他们投票的。那他们的意思就是说呢，你也不能够低估这么多年的这些教育和媒体洗脑的这个功效。那从教育来看现在的这些教育出来的这些年轻人，他们的思想是非常容易就是被接下来的或者被无所不在的这个左媒环绕所洗脑的。那包括普通公民也是一样的。所以我们在这个教育上，在媒体上出了重大的这个偏差，所以使得这些左派的这些这些社会主义者、共产主义者在美国的一些地方选举中不断的被选上去。所以他谈到的是这个问题。那么他就是说，所以像我们这样的podcast， 就是这种自媒体非常重要，因为从这里面你可以听到这个跟主媒不同的声音。那就是当然我们也是一直受到这个打压的那也是就是在这个大的一个范围内它是不会就是很鼓励你传播，或者从算法上是打压你的传播的。但是不管怎么样，这个像我们这样的自媒体存在，来挖掘一些事实的真相，来讲出一些常识，大声的讲出常识，这个对一个民主社会来说是非常重要的。那这里面他们也讲到，他说我们在这里也可以去就是证明一下、澄清一下，就是我来做这个 podcast， 就是来我的节目是没有钱的。这个因为有很多人是做这个 podcast 是挣钱的，我们是不挣钱的。他说我来做这个事情，只是我作为一个公民的一个义务和我的一个责任感，我来做这个事。我非常感谢 Tom 的这样一个说明，因为其实我的这个节目也是一样，我也没有广告，什么也没有，这个都是不是来挣钱的，我们是来想有这么一个渠道，有这么一个平台，把我们所看到的真实的情况，把我们所相信的这样一些基本的常识就是放到这个社会中去跟大众来交流，那这样才是一个民主社会能够得以发展的一个基础的土壤性的工作所以我在此呢再三的感谢这个 Tom 他的这样的一个奉献以及对美国和对美国的这样一个民众这样一种责任感，非常感谢他所以我们是谈到这个问题。那另外呢，就是我也是报告大家一个好消息就是加州呢，因为我们知道去年 Newsom 居然签了一个法律，就是不允许问这个选民的他的一个身份。那当然这个加州的普通的选民是非常气愤的，这是不可以这不可以这样没有常识的做事情，因为这样就意味着你的选举权已经可以给任何人了，包括非法移民。可是在美国的选举法中规定，选举必须是美国公民才能够拥有的一个权利。那当你废除了检查这个选举就是投票人的这个身份之后，那实际上你这条所谓公民选举权就已经荡然无存了，已经名存实亡了。所以我们就发起了一个就是加州的一个议员Capino 他发起了一个就是要把 voter ID 就是选举身份放进到我们的11月份的公投的这样的一个 活动里面，放入公投，那么大家投票，如果投票的这个就是多数人赞同把这个选举身份要加到这个选举人的这个就是基本条件当中去，就是选举的时候你要有个身份哈，那这个呢就对我们来把加州的选举清理。哈，有一个公正公平的选举，就打下了一个很好的基础。那报告大家一个好消息呢，就是在12月31号之前，我们收集到了所需要的100万的签名。哦，这个是让人非常非常振奋的一个事情啊！因为在12月初，我12月9号去跟他们，就是参加他们的一个会议的时候呢，当时还差20几万票，所以我们大概在10几天内哈，加州的这些民众啊，又搜集到了20几万票，所以最后通过的呢是100万01746张票。好，所以这是真的是非常让人高兴的，因为 holiday season 的时候，很多人都不会去做这个事儿，但是我们还有这些民众啊去搜集这些签名哈。那我本人呢，到处收集签名和我最后2个收集到的签名，我是在12月31号跑到邮局去寄出的，那这个也是 count 的哈，所以。就是我再三的跟大家讲，就是我们每一个选民、每一张选票、每一个这个签名都很重要，都是我们的一个责任。我这个万众一心来做一些事情啊，是可以改变我们的一些现状。所以现在呢，这是来自加州的一个很好的消息，要跟大家报告一下啊。那我们所以今天呢就谈到了。这些问题啊，一个是马杜罗的这个问题哈，那另外一个呢就是关于明尼苏达州长的问题，那更重要的就是关于美国选民的这种自我教育和自我觉醒的这样的一个过程。所以我们现在所做的这个工作呢，其实就是选民的自我教育、选民的自我修养和选民的自我觉醒。当我们觉醒之后，我们需要有动作，这个动作就是作为一个美国的公民去做你该做的一些事情。好，这就是我们今天大概谈的主要的一些内容，所以非常感谢大家啊！这个中英文的形式啊，就是可能有一些朋友可能很喜欢，有些朋友可能会觉得也蛮辛苦的哈。我们做一些不同的尝试。好。那谢谢这些朋友的留言哈，小妍说中文了，挺好，好，谢谢大家。那我跟Tom的这个节目呢，在下个礼拜2会继续来进行，也希望大家来继续的关注。好，再次感谢大家，新年愉快，我们下次节目再见。